Welcome to Brave Healer Productions. We are waking the world up to what's possible for healing, one brave word at a time. Welcome, everyone. I'm Laura DeFranco, the CEO of Brave Healer Productions, where we are helping the world experience what's possible. And here today to help me with that mission are some of the authors of one of our newest books. This one is called How to Be Brave: Self-Healing Tools for Love Warriors. And I've got three incredible love warriors in my Zoom room today. I'm going to introduce you to them in just a second. But you guys, we did a special thing back in May. We gathered in New York for a really special writers retreat. And many of the authors of this book and one other that we're doing were invited not only to partake in that retreat, but to write for one of these beautiful books. And I'm just so incredibly grateful to have had that experience of being with many of them, including all three of these beautiful women today. So I'm really, really excited to introduce them to you and let you have a feel of the awesomeness that they are up to in the world. Colleen Avis is with us. She's a life coach and award-winning author. Colleen co-creates and supports awareness, action, and transformation with her clients. Valerie Miola is here. She's a president owner of Professional Technologies Consulting and board president of the Race Foundation and author of The Monsters Game. We also have Julie Blanfin with us, yoga pro and founder of Stretch Your Spirit. She inspires midlife and menopausal women to feel joyful, stable, and sexy through movement and stillness. So, I've been forgetting to mention that I am the lead author of this book. So it was like, well, duh, Laura, like, have you done the Brave collaboration yet? Like, no, I hadn't done it. Right. And so I was excited because my definition of brave, of being brave, is very different from everyone in this Zoom today and probably everyone else. I wanted to bring in all of our unique voices to talk about this. This is so interesting to listen to people's definition and to understand what that means to every unique human being. I'm in love with this book, y'all. So thanks to all three of you for showing up, for being here, for saying yes, all the good things. Val, I'm going to start the party with you. I want to hear a little bit of the why behind your chapter. Why did you say yes to the Brave book?
Well, I almost didn't say yes. It was a last minute choice because I didn't think I knew anything about being brave. But after, just thinking about it a bit, I thought, what message do I have to give to others who have experienced the same type of things that I've experienced? And I've talked about those things a lot, but what I haven't talked about is how I healed from that. And it, is an act of bravery to heal from child sexual abuse by speaking your voice and finding your voice. And that's what I wanted to get that message out there to people, that the fear of telling is worse than telling. And I really want people to know that once they find their voice, it's very healing.
Oh my gosh, the fear of telling is worse than telling. I resonate with that as a feeling in my body. If you were going to help somebody move to the other side of that fear, how would you help them with that very first step? What was it like for you?
Scary. So, I had shared only with one person most of my whole life, and that was my husband. So going outside of that was a really, really scary feeling because, as anyone who has experienced this, there's such a feeling of shame and guilt and all that. So, you think that you're going to be judged, and you have all these thoughts in your head that all the worst things are going to happen if you start telling. And it doesn't. It actually, opened up the door for me to heal. And I didn't even know I needed to heal.
I think all of us here probably have listened to and read Brene Brown and her work on shame specifically, but I remember some things from her. And I also remember some psychology friends basically saying when you are brave enough to call the shame out, it then disappears or dissolves or something shifts. Yeah. Was that your experience? I wanted you to talk about that a little bit.
Yes, absolutely. And once I started talking, first I was only speaking to people online anonymously, so it was very safe. And I recommend that to anyone who doesn't have a safe place to speak. But yeah, letting it go. Um, you know, the first time I told my story in person to someone, I was like in hysterics. And now I can talk about it and not even shed a tear, because um, the more you tell the story, the more you realize it's not your shame to hold on to. It's the perpetrator's shame. It's their guilt. Um, and it took writing about it and telling that story over and over for me to really believe that. So it's about believing that you're not the guilty one. You're not the one to be shamed.
Val, can you tell us a little bit about race?
Race Foundation is in its 20th year, and we're about preventing child sexual abuse. So we have a power prevention guide that we give to anyone who wants it for free, and it talks about all the things you need to know about child sexual abuse and the signs to look for and different things to prevent child sexual abuse. We talk about the circle of trust because, we talk a lot about stranger danger to our kids and to other people, but we don't talk about that circle of trust. And 90% of the problem is within the circle of trust, not, stranger danger is only 10% of the problem. So we're about trying to put a dent in the statistics.
Thank you. Thank you for telling us a little bit about it. And thank you for saying yes. I'm so glad you're
Thank you.
here. Colleen, tell me about your chapter. Give me a little bit of the why you said yes to this.
I said why because I had no idea where I had any bravery, which when I said that out loud to some of my friends and colleagues and stuff, they were like, what, are you kidding me? But, there's a little bit of imposter syndrome or, brave has to be something so big and grand and grab somebody's attention. And I didn't feel like I had that story anymore. And so I said yes because I wanted to figure it out. And I know you're a safe place in which to to journey with that. So thank you, brave healer master.
I love
Yeah,
that
so I said yes because I didn't know why.
and I love that you're starting with that that piece of this because there's so many ways to do it. And I once told a friend, I think one of the bravest moments in my own life was just having the courage to tell him I love you. And that is not some big ugly thing that I need. You know what I mean? That's just an interesting way to look at what this means inside of a body mind that is struggling with what's going to happen if I say this out loud.
Yeah.
So what else do you want us to know about your version?
Yeah, I mean, I had to dig around. I guess I hope that anyone that picks up the book and happens to read chapter 9 is 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 grabbed by the simplicity of what bravery can look like and be, and that over time, at least in my story, as life went on and societal things got put upon me, or I chose to absorb them, or however one wants to look at it, that I felt like I lost some bravery in certain parts of my life. Funny enough, as I reread my chapter when it was done, I was like, but there's other things that I do that are actually more brave than that, right? So there was this like trading off for me. And it was really fun to look at my little self and go, wow, I would have stood up in front of the world and done anything at a certain age. And that some of that got lost. And where are some of the subtleties that was taken, or that I lost it? And where are some of the subtleties or simple things that I can bring back in to actually reclaim some of that bravery that might apply to not just singing, which is what part of the chapter is about, but also about how I show up in the rest of my life, right? So where can I use these teeny toolkit pieces that I have to stand taller, shine brighter, be more passionate about life?
I remember a moment where I was told something from a specific family member, and I carried it into adulthood. It was such
Mm,
a small moment, a one sentence, statement, and then all of a sudden, and I'll go back to what Val was saying about shame. It was the shame, and it's interesting even to say it today. Like, I can remember that moment so clearly, the impact that one sentence had on me.
mhm.
Do you remember what, you just said, I kind of lost it along the way? Like, was there a moment, or do you think it was just like little by little?
I think it was probably a combination of things. It was definitely little by little things that I think most of us experience. And if you're not paying attention, they kind of stick to you. But, I have a story of abandonment, right? I have a story of not being enough at a certain point in my life. And I think at that point, there was a lot of questioning about my own worth. And so there was bravery in moving through that, but it kind of stifled my independence and my own kind of heart and my own ability to shine a little bit. And so I think it's a little bit of a combination of things. But again, what's been the most powerful for me is that it's not some big grand thing to get brave again. It's, subtle things that you can actually use to make movement and reclaim some of that exciting, wiggle about being brave or trying something new. Ironic, I didn't want to write the chapter because I didn't know what brave was. And then I was like, oh, there's a whole bunch of little brave things going on here.
Yes, for sure. And thanks for mentioning the subtle shifts. Colleen is heading up a book project, Sacred Spaces, and we're going to be talking about those subtle shifts. So I'm excited about your project.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for coming back to be with me for this project and showing up like you have, and just also kind of leading your own community and in on this brave path. Thank you, my dear.
Well, thank you.
Julie, tell me about why you said yes to the Brave book. What was it for you?
Oh my, Laura, it's a layered question with a layered answer. Eh, Like Val, and Colleen, I was conflicted. You ladies didn't say that, but I'll say I was conflicted. I, on one hand, feel myself brave as a freaking crazy brave badass every day, and then 2 seconds later, I'm like, oh, you're such a wuss. Why didn't you do that better? I can't believe you said that, wrote that, did that. Constantly, it's back and forth and back and forth. And God forbid I share my vulnerability. But that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. That's my why. It's having the, whether it's courage or bravery or just who just balls out kind of a feeling or thought, having that bravery to just go there and not be afraid to shine your light and to allow others to shine theirs, but also to be seen. I wanted to let women know, and men, yes, but most of my circle is women. I wanted women to know that I am you and you are me. And we're all in this together, and we support each other, and we shine our light so we can all be seen and heard. Ever since I founded my business, Stretch Your Spirit, in 2009, I have interviewed and sat with and held space for hundreds, maybe even with my social media reach, thousands of women. And I've been paying attention, and I've learned what women do, what they don't do, what they want and what they don't want. And so many women are struggling in silence. And until I shared a bit of my own story on the last night of my first retreat back in 2018, did I realize the profundity of that statement. So many women are really living in their darkness, are hiding, are not sharing their secrets out of shame, out of fear of vulnerability. And I was too. And I had been teaching up until that point for 10 years. And well, I've been teaching since I was 12. I just turned 57, do the math. So I've been teaching a long time, but specifically with women who are really struggling with their sexual wellness and their pelvic floor and their deep core and those moments of vulnerability and shame. I've been working in that circle for now 15, 16 years. But until I started sharing my story, it was probably about 10 years. And then I started recognizing how many women needed to step into the light and recognize that they could and that it was safe there. So that's why I'm here. I want you to know that it's hard. Trust me, it's still hard sharing my stories. But I want you to know, listener, Laura, Val, Colleen, all the readers of this amazing, freaking powerful book, that you're safe, that you're safe. Shine your light.
So I want to go back to something you said a few minutes ago about that back and forth in your mind. And I think a lot of us who are sharing stories and doing it a little bit more, the vulnerability hangover can be real. Like you've put it out there, then you sabotage yourself back into your own box, and then you get brave again and you put it out there, and then the mindset is, it's rough sometimes. But I appreciate how you're describing that particular back and forth, because I think a lot of people will resonate with this happening to them. And you have to be brave, I think, over and over and over and over and over again until it becomes a little bit more of a habit. I see you nodding. So what else do you want to say about that?
It's definitely a practice.
Yeah.
It's not like you share one day and you're like, oh, I'm the queen of vulnerability.
Yeah.
I got this. I'm so brave. No, well, 2 seconds later, I'm like, crying, feeling the imposter syndrome and feeling like a total fraud, even just as a woman, not even as an author, a teacher, a writer, a speaker. And yet that's the point.
Yeah.
That's the point. We're all in this together.
I'm glad you said yes, Julie. Thank you for being
Me too.
here.
Thanks for asking.
So each of us has a way of connecting. We all have pretty powerful practices in this community, and awareness is the key when you're on this journey. So says Laura. We all have different ways to connect, to practice awareness. So, Colleen, would you share about one? I know you guys have so many to share, but like if you had your top, if we were going to peek in your window and find you connecting, what would that look like?
You want, oh, I know you're not gonna like this. It's like connecting with myself or connecting outside, and I guess as I'm saying that out loud, it's really difficult. They're so intertwined, right? It's like trying to remove the mind and the body from one another. It just doesn't quite work like that. All right. God, you're really making me struggle here. I'm going to go with a really simple one, of course, because that's my jam, right? How simple can we make something? Because I think there is this, as Julie was speaking about, I guess everybody was really speaking about, like, this vulnerability of, am I worthy, ping ponging back and forth, being in the box. And so I think sometimes it's not that easy to step out and be comfortable. And so I think sometimes the most subtle shifts are that you take aren't even connected with what you think you're trying to fix. Okay. So I'm going to go out of the box a little bit. And I really think using our throat chakras, using this voice box space is one of the favorite tools that I have. And I know in the book I talk about singing, but I'm talking about just like humming in the car. I'm talking about stretching out the neck. I'm talking about thinking about the energy that comes from this space in our body to speak what we want, what we need, how we need it. And I don't care if it is in your box, right? Like if you need to start there and you can't stay at, I like to say, stand naked on the edge of the world, and you're not ready for that, start with some intentional throat chakra work. So I don't know how much you want me to go into that, but really just this vibrational sound of hum, H-A-M, being able to just breathe in and exhale, hum, with an intention of movement and freedom and opening in here, and even just being honest with yourself and allowing some of that vibrational sound to move. So maybe I got a little bit too tactical and quick on that, but I just want people to feel like you can be in your car, you can be on the edge of the world, you can be alone. You don't need your running shoes, you don't need a barbell, you don't need a tool, you just need you. And I think, as unprepared for that question as I was, I think I go there because the reality is that is all you need, and that the answers are within. And I love my coaching practice, and I adore and love my clients. And I constantly tell them everything you need, you already have within you. We're just going to peel back some of the veil. And so starting with the ability to communicate with yourself, have some self-expression, allow the body and the mind some somaticness of that vibration to kind of be juicy in your body. I'm going with throat chakra chanting hum all day. Like try it, pause this video and go vibrate with yourself. Take that however you want, Julie, and the pelvic floor expert.
I love it. Well, Julie's next, so I'm sure she'll
Oh,
have
good.
her
I
too.
set her up.
Yeah. But thank you for kicking that question off like that. Super awesome. I'm looking for our listeners to have that peek in the window of your practice, because it's really nice to hear all of the different ways we connect. And you mentioned it earlier, what are you talking about? Connecting with myself, connecting outside, inside. I mean, connecting with that place that is both, that is connecting with a place that is your intuition, that's your higher power, that's the place where you are inspired to be creative. Like there's a million answers for what I'm talking about. So I love the way that you started that. I'm going to go to Julie and let her continue with how we would, she's probably humming and doing a yoga pose and
I know what she's
breathing and all the things. What are you doing, Julie?
First of all, I'd like to just hold this up, and I won't drop it, but figuratively speaking, I drop what Colleen said.
Yeah.
So being that we're both yogis, I totally resonate with what you just said, Colleen. I absolutely support that. All you listeners, all you readers, connect with the energy of your voice. Connect with the energy of your voice, even if you're the only one who's going to be listening. Hum, sing, sigh. Oh, sighing is on my resume. That is one of my superpowers. It is so powerful to allow yourself to connect with your sound. And maybe eventually it will be you revealing those secrets, if you will. Maybe eventually it might be you sharing your story, but connect with your sound. Further, I like to encourage women to practice what I like to call radical self-care. And it might sound scary, it might sound cliche, but sometimes like stepping into that super brave side of self is an opportunity and sort of like an invitation. And it can be subtle. It doesn't have to be terrifying, but going into those moments of radical self-care, whether that means take an entire day off of work and practice doing nothing. As I like to say, doing nothing is definitely doing something. Or maybe it be you sign up for a retreat with me, a whole week in a glorious luxury property, connecting with yourself and other women. Maybe it's you settling into a day of rest. Maybe it's just 5 minutes of rest. Maybe it's a hot bath. Maybe it's masturbation. Maybe it's a walk with a friend who you really don't like to talk with, but you're setting yourself kind of outside that level of comfort. So radical self-care, maybe it's practicing a few minutes of yoga a few times a day. That can set you free. Radical self-care, stepping outside your comfort zone for healing. It's practice.
Nice. Well, that was more than one thing, but I will take all of them. Radical self-care. All right, before I ask Val, I'm going to add mine. It's sitting with my notebook and pen, typically in nature. And when I can just take a moment to breathe and feel and get out of my mind and back into my body, and I pick up that pen, then I get to connect with a source that's way bigger than me. And so if I'm busy in my mind, I'll just write those things out and literally feng shui what's in there, right? Get it out onto the notebook. Usually when I clear that space with some of that journaling, I'll get to a point of connection that something else more interesting and juicy moves through, like a poem or thoughts about something, or sometimes I'll have an inspired idea move through because I was able to clear that space. So I wanted to offer one of my connection points. If you were to peek into my window, especially early morning, that is one of my miracle morning practices. So Val, your turn on this one. If we were going to look at one of the ways you connect, what would it be?
I'd have to say through poetry, because that's really what started me on this journey that I didn't even know I needed to take. When I first, started talking about my story, like I said, anonymously, there was a lot I couldn't say in plain English. And I started writing poetry. Well, I had written poetry, a lot before, but this was, stuff about me. So poetry allowed me to say things that I ordinarily couldn't say. And I could kind of veil what I wanted to say a little bit so it wasn't so painful or so gory, or just kind of mask it a little bit. And it really helps me to connect to really what I'm feeling, like those really deep feelings that I had not allowed myself to feel for over 50 years. So I did not find my healing place until I was 52 years old. I began to find that place. So I think it's poetry is my stepping off point. And I go back to that a lot.
And you have a lot of it in the Monsters game, yes? Like that whole book is
It's
like
all poetry.
that. Yeah.
Yes.
It's beautiful. And I appreciate the way you used poetry to help us into a pretty tough subject, but also to you to be vulnerable in a way that helped me into that world. And you did such a beautiful job, I thought, in that book. So I want to give you a little plug for the Monsters game. And remember, for like all of you listening today, we're going to be giving you all kinds of resources to find these things that we're talking about. So we'll put Val's book down in the show notes for you. Yes, poetry. Yes, all day to that for myself as well to connect. All right, I have a big juicy question for all of you to wrap up today. Julie, what's the most important thing you want people to know about being brave?
It'll change your life. It's going to be okay because it's you. You are brave. That's just true. So just practicing that.
So being brave is a life changer. And of course, it means something different to all of us, which is what we were saying before. But can you speak to the person who can't make the action yet? If you were coaching your younger self, what would be that thing that you would tell her to help her like be able to move with the feeling of fear?
I talk about this in my chapter in this book. When I was young, I was an adrenaline junkie. I went from an entire childhood of gymnastics to just about every other badass, high energy sports, exercise, activity I could practice. And then in my 20s, 30s, realized, okay, what I really need is to slow the fuck down and just chill out and pause. That was really, really difficult for me. It still is. So going to that moment of stillness a few times a day is accessible for me. It's accessible for any of us. I truly believe, to just pause and feel peace. Often we're in the mind, and the thoughts are going to come in and tell us, no, you're not safe. Don't say that. Don't do that. And then we think we're not brave. But if we just pause, and maybe we're in a yoga pose, maybe we're lying flat on our back in the middle of a meadow, just pause and feel peace. Connect with your body, connect with your spirit, your soul, your source. Recognize that you're safe. And again, it's a practice. It's a practice. Be still.
Love it. Yes, it is a practice, lifelong practice, and you get better and better. All right, Val, your turn to answer this big question. So, what's that most important thing you want people to know about being brave?
Well, first of all, if you've been through any type of abuse, you're brave because you're still here. You're a survivor or thriver. And I, want to go back to, that saying that the fear of telling is worse than telling. So all those negative thoughts in your head that say, you shouldn't do something or you can't do something, they're not real. That's just stuff we put in our head that stops us from being the person that we need to be. So just stepping out of those negative thoughts is so powerful.
Somebody said it yesterday in an interview too. I love that you're saying it again. You're brave because you survived. And I love that, Val. That is a very good thing to remember. All right, Colleen, tell us what you think is that most important thing you want people to know about being brave.
I would add to the brilliance that has already come before me that curiosity is a key element to unlocking some of this bravery stuff. And I think what I'm saying about being curious is challenging your own thoughts, asking yourself the questions, is this true? Are the reasons that I'm putting myself in the box and not stepping forward legitimate, like really legitimate? And if you don't think you can be honest with yourself, ask somebody that loves you enough to be honest with you. I think you could call any one of us on this screen and all of us would spend 30, 60, whatever minutes with you, helping you unveil that. Because there needs to be a willingness to confront the uncertainty and the fear that is holding you. And I think it can be really difficult to ask someone to confront the fear and confront the uncertainty And so if we can confront it with curiosity and maybe look at smaller ways to think about where that bravery comes into play, or maybe even why some of the fear stands in the way, that curiosity can be fun, right? And sometimes bravery and fear aren't as fun. So I like to look for the fun. I like to look for the light. I like to look for the magic that sits between all of the spaces. And the way that it's been defined to look at it isn't always the way, right? Like it's okay to pivot. If I think, I forget who says this, but someone says, you know, if the mind is busy, move the body. If the body is busy, move the mind, right? So being curious about where you're coming at this bravery question and what it is that you're looking to achieve, along with stillness and, you know, all the wisdom that Val has and Julie have shared with us. Get curious.
Yeah, curiosity is definitely a superpower when it comes to life in general. Not just being brave, but everything. Oh, I love listening to you all talk about these topics. I think for me, the most important thing about being brave is for myself is to recognize that fear, and I'll call them, most of them, purpose-driven fears, has a feeling in my body that I am feeling it sometimes around my heart space, my chest, sometimes in my solar plexus or my gut. Sometimes I can feel it when I'm clenching my teeth. And I'm making it mean a lot of extra crappy things. So fear is a feeling inside of you. And when you can stop making it mean extra stuff and understand it at that next body awareness level, I have started to practice moving with the feeling in my body, and moving meaning literally moving or speaking out loud or writing something down or having a conversation with somebody with the feeling. Stop making it mean all these extra things and take a little action with it. That's the thing that's helped me during my journey a lot, a lot, a lot. So to all of you, Val, Julie, Colleen, thank you so much for what you do in the world. And thank you for being here today to share it with everyone. Thanks, ladies.
Thank you, Laura.
Laura, special thanks to you and all the bravery you bring to these communities. Thank you so much.
You guys, this is way more than a book. This is a super generous community. And Colleen mentioned earlier, like we're ready for you to reach out. If you heard something today that gave you the goosebumps, or you're curious about, or you have a question about, or just want to continue the juicy conversation we started today, scroll down into the show notes, because I have all of our authors hooked up with their sites and their links, and they are doing some amazing things in the world. Explore their websites, reach out to them, ask the question. That is really what we're hoping to do, building this How to Be Brave community, and they're ready for you. And you're also invited to the book launch party if you want to join all of the co-authors on Zoom with me for How to Be Brave. We're going to be partying on October 24th. I've got some information down below. You can also grab your copy of this beautiful book on Amazon. So we hope that you'll go click on the link and grab your copy down below. Lastly, everyone, remember, your words change the world when you're brave enough to share them. So it is time to be brave. See you next time, everyone.